All right, we do have a quorum, so let's call the meeting to order by calling the roll and then introducing everyone after that. Is Karen here?
I'm here.
Thank you. So this is the meeting of the Economic Development Group, and our official name is still what?
Ad hoc redevelopment.
Yeah, I thought we had changed that back to the general meeting. But anyway, let's take the roll call for quorum. There are 7 people, with 4, I believe we had 4, but let's make sure.
Okay. Commissioner Kiefer is out. Commissioner Meyer?
Here.
Commissioner Del Rey is out. Commissioner Carbonaro is out. Commissioner Adams?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Malone?
Here.
All right, we have 4, we can proceed. The date and time is what, Karen?
Today it is December 10th and it is 12:10 p.m.
And where are we meeting?
We are meeting at the City Council Chambers, Prospect Heights City Hall, 8 North Elmhurst Road, Prospect Heights, Illinois.
All right, so now we need, who else is here? Joe, why don't we start with you?
Joe Wade, City Administrator, Prospect Heights.
Dan Peterson, Director of Building and Development for Prospect Heights.
Can we already call roll of all 3 of you, right?
No.
No?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless we're
There's one more.
No, that's me.
Say your name, last
Say
name.
my name,
Your last name.
Solkai is last name, the first name is Narman, but I was baptized as Norman, so call me Norman.
Call you Norman. And Norman, you own the shopping area over at Wolf and Gavin.
Wolf, well, Wolf Shopping Center is part of other village. Ascot is part of this village, so.
All right, so the 4 corners of those 2 streets,
Across from each other, but
the 4 corners is what you control, let's say, is that correct?
you think so? Okay.
One of the corners, the northwest corner is Wheeling, the other 3 Prospect Heights. And let's move on. Do you have?
I'm Matt Haylock, I'm an architect with Arc America.
Michael Ponarelli Builders.
Dennis B. Dron, Ponarelli Builders.
Kevin Lewis, IG Consulting, Engineering in Wood.
Rodney, you're here.
Yeah, she already called me. Yeah, Rodney Adams, Commissioner.
Oh, you're part of the group, you're right. Some of these people are suspects because I've known them for so long, I can't imagine that they're still in business. And they are, and so am I. So let's move on to a couple things on the agenda. We recently closed on a deli for you, the shopping center across the street. Small, but a high producer of sales tax income, an important business to us in the city. And they basically cater to the Polish community. We have about 2,800 that I know, and there's probably double that number with the kids in there, Polish-speaking people. Now that sometimes presents a problem. Gail, my wife, was in there the day before yesterday. She walked in, she wanted to get something, so she stood and waited to be waited on. Well, they waited on the 3 people going on this way. And finally, one of the people turned around and said, you know, the reason they didn't call you is because they don't speak English. So that's a little tough. But Gail's pretty assertive. She got her shopping done. And I've been there too. It's a great place. The last we spoke with the deli was an hour ago. And they had an architect draw up the remodeling, the rehabbing, whatever the right word is, of the exterior and interior of the shopping area. They were renting. They bought it. Took them a long time to buy it. And they're starting to work on changing the facade, changing the inside. The inside are very skinny, let's call it 3-foot aisles. people would come in, parking lot is crowded, one of them could get a parking space. So we ended up buying the parking space next to a house that's turned into a parking lot next door to the shopping center. And they went ahead and bought that along with the building. So they're going to take some time to vacate some of the tenants. Initially, they only wanted to remodel their inside of the store and a couple of small stores next to them. One was a liquor store, one used to be a flower shop, and so on. They've decided now to go right up to the front of the side of the building, which really faces 83, and turn that into a liquor store. One of the major liquor stores apparently is going to be their tenant. So it's really interesting because my company, Inland, used to own that shopping center. And I tried to buy it for me personally, and it didn't work out. They owned it in a contract and so on and so forth. So I've known about it a long time, and it really does need some refurbishing. So they're working with our development director, Dan Peterson, and they're not struggling. They're taking their time to do the right thing. So they project an opening in early or mid-summer next year. So that's great. It'll turn, this area, it'll be obvious that it's a good area. There are older buildings around that are still on the market. So when this development comes to life, I think it's going to help bring the corner, our corner here, to life. And I think that'll be a good thing to happen. We've got a very old building next to the Shell gas station that's up for sale. We've got the building next door, which is an office building and a vape shop. But as the vape shop isn't doing so well, public city is going to drive them out of business. So that building will be vacant. So we'll see what we do with that, but right now we have to focus on what we can do today. And by that I mean now. What we can do is one of the things that Dave has been working on, and that is to build 100 units of apartments. And his crew here, 100 units, 100-unit apartment in the shopping center down the street. Mike Panarelli has been working with me for a very long time. Matt reminded me last year that we also have been working. He didn't age and all that. It's like,
We did a building together at least 20 years ago or so.
they do the same with him. So I know these people, and they do a good job. So we're looking at two things for today. So the first would be, Dan, give us a short story.
Mike, how many of the handouts do you have of this project so we can give it to them?
Well, I have 5 here for the project at the shopping center, Prairie Crossing. One of my, I think $2.
Where are you at?
5.
That's a Manny's deal?
Yeah,
That's a managed deal.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I've got some handouts.
Pass one down to Rodney.
Pass them around the room. Now you got some handouts.
Well, if anybody else needs some extras, I believe it's pretty much
We
the
have
same
something for
thing.
everyone.
This was the displays from last night. In short, Manny Ravidia, the owner of Prospect Crossing Shopping Center, has been communicating with the city for about 2 years now on what to do with the outlot that's along Willow Road. That outlot's approximately an acre in size. It was always contemplated for some form of redevelopment when the shopping center was originally built. We've looked at some minor retail, we've looked at possible restaurants, but there's been a lack of interest there. A little over a year ago, the owner came to the city with the concept of putting some multifamily at first, possibly age limiting, type of a unit. It expanded into 100 units of market rate rental, and an expansion of that outlot to accommodate some of the parking. The owners worked with myself and an alderman, went through some very preliminary concepts, and then the owner brought in this team that we have here, Mr. Panarelli, and his group, Kevin and Mark, to work on a better plan. Last night, they prepared a concept plan, which is in front of you, that shows the building, the layout, the floor plans, and for preliminary concept with council. It was well received. The comments last night had to do mainly with some height possibilities, mainly parking and then ingress and egress to try and minimize the conflicts between the mall and the residents, which is to be expected with any type of major development like
For
this.
those of you that don't know the area, you might know Hershey High School. It's directly across Tony's. Tony is our major tenant, or his major tenant, produces a very nice sales tax income, and he is in 87, 85, call it even numbers, 85,000 square foot space. He's done very well.
This particular site is in the B4 business PUD, which means it's eligible for re-evaluating all the different uses, looking at working with the city to establish parking ratios and things, and possibly, some relief from the city code. The council is good with that in our discussions on the concepts, and that's what is going forward. And I'll let Mike and Kevin come in from there, because you guys have done the design work at this point in time.
Yeah, Mike.
Well, I'd like to mention that the amount of apartments available in Prospect Heights is virtually 0 or 1 or 2. Dennis did a market survey, and there is no product there for someone to rent. Now, if I owned a home and was tired of raking the leaves, shoveling the snow, everything, I'd want to live in Prospect Heights more likely, by my church and by, the shopping, and I'd want to stay in my community. And this affords everyone in the community, not only the person that wants to sell their home, but how about the children living in, the millennial living in dad's basement still, 30 years old, college debt. Hey, he's got a job, well, get out of the basement, go to an apartment right next to us in town here.
Millennials don't want to own.
They don't want to own.
They want to rent.
They want to rent. So before I get into the plan itself, I mean the benefit just for the residents in Prospect Heights. We went through this in the Norwood Park, Edison Park area, where the thought was, this is all single family. You'll never build multifamily. And who was Alderman Chinsky was down there, and we could never rezone a corner or anything, even in a business district, to put a 2 or 3 story multiple. This is a single family community. Everyone exited down Milwaukee Avenue into Niles. We probably sold 5,000 people condominiums right in Niles there, because they wouldn't let people live in affordable, new, economical housing, multifamily, and even townhouses they wouldn't allow in there. So it's really important for the community to have another type of dwelling rather than single-family homes throughout the community.
Piggyback on that, our comprehensive plan does recognize the lack of multifamily east of Wolf Road, or west of Wolf Road, okay? And one of the goals of this strategic or master plan is to promote reasonable and rational redevelopment of underutilized parcels for potential variety and residential product. And this fits within those goal statements of our master plan, the comprehensive plan that was done in 2014. So therefore, it does give another housing option for the city, and that's why we're here. So,
Well, to get not too deep, depth, I don't want to talk about only for a long time. what we reviewed last night at council. So we're working on that, the council's working on that. It's something you should know rather than try to something that you should contribute to by contributing an idea. You're welcome to bring in ideas, you're welcome to do anything that benefits economic development. So we've got the pamphlet there for you, as it is both Mike and Dan said. The resistance is parking and height. Even though parking is at one point, where are we, 1.1 or something?
The proposal on this is 1.2, which is a little less than what our ordinance says, but there's ample parking within the shopping center for potential cross access, and it does not reduce the multifamily too significantly. And the trends in the common practice are to lessen the asphalt portions that are out there because the store front usage is less than it has been. So at the end of the day, it'll be just around 5 per thousand instead of the 6 per thousand for the shopping center, and still provide the adequate parking for the multifamily.
So that has to be, the council has to understand that. There's an issue with Hershey High School being across the street and loading their cars, kids loading their cars right across the street where they can just walk and get out of the area. Many have not fought that. He said, look, this is a great school, it's got a great reputation. I don't really want to create any problems, but we've got to figure that out. I don't think they can. I'm having one of the Hershey trustees coming in next week to see if they can alleviate some of the problems. When you go out there at 3:15, where the kids go home, it's lined up. There must be reasonably 50 to 60 cars squeezed over to the sidewalk side, with the only thing in the middle, luckily, is being a yellow line area. So people can get by it, but it's very, it's just irritating and disconcerting. So we've got to do something. Hershey's got to help us. We help Hershey all the time. We give them talks there, we've had meetings, and we've done quite a few things. Put in a crossing area with a light flashing so that kids, when they go get their car over in Manny's parking lot, don't get hit. I think we've reached out. We're going to reach out about what can be done. I'm not sure if they have more land in the back and aren't using it, or have parking available elsewhere, the way it's set up. But the parking issue, we have probably 50 to 60 kids parking their car in Manny's parking lot. We've got merchants there, and if you park in front of the Dairy Queen, which is right on the edge there, it's tough. And then we've got a rental, what's that top flight thing or something?
Oh, you got the driver's education center there, you got Jimmy John's, you've got...
Well, no, but driver's education parks their cars there.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a place in the shopping center.
Yeah, they do. They've got a storefront, the driver's school is there, so
Well,
supplemental to that, they have, I think, 4 or 5 cars that they park there.
All right, but it's a parking issue, and it's for people that don't belong there, or shouldn't be there, belong to work, shouldn't be. So that issue, I'm going to try to work on and see if there's anything else Hershey can do. When we went to the Thornton's development, which was just opened a few months ago, right across the street on Rand Road, we took a lot of flack because the first house south of west of Thornton's is Arlington Heights. And, people are just, they're up in arms. If someone pulls out at the gas station, it's going to shine in my bedroom window. I said, ma'am, they'd have to tilt to get their headlights up into your bedroom. You're talking about the second story. So things like that came up. Many things came up. The mayor and I got together, and I said, look, I can't work this out, but we'd rather have you not do Thornton's. And I'm thinking, come on, Tommy, you're better than that. And he did admit it later. He said, I couldn't get the council to give me water. Main water line runs right in front of Thornton's. and they wouldn't let us tap into it, wouldn't let Thornton's tap into it. That created more cost for Thornton's, and that was a problem. So we're right there, and then they came at me for too many cars will be produced by the gas station. I said, I really don't think so. The people that use that gas station are coming out of Rand Road. Oh no, they'll be coming over from Arlington Heights. So I said, I don't think so. I don't think somebody's going to drive 6 blocks or 8 blocks to get over here to Thornton's unless they live down the street. Maybe that's it. The traffic increase will only come from Hershey. It's really, and we see it from housing. More people are coming to live in Prospect Heights, and frankly, the only reason they'll obviate the fact that we have wells on the west side, you know, they're coming because of schools. That means schools are going to get more cars. That school is going to get more cars. So I'm not sure how to get past all that, but they've worked out a plan where the ingress and egress is going into Rand Road. So that'll help somewhat instead of coming out onto the street that faces Hershey, which down there is Thomas and up here is Willow. But there's some problems that come up. Now I will say this, Lawrence really built a nice building. I don't know if you have a chance to get gas here. It's also the cheapest around, so that's great. And they built a nice building. I hadn't heard of word. House next door has been for sale for a long time now. And that's too bad, but you know, it doesn't feel good to make that happen, but we needed that business and we got it. We're really trying to be active in economic development. We have Lola's Pizza that is in the shopping center and has now decided to go on demand. Fortunately, in our in our area, the Prospect Heights, right across the street is still Prospect Heights on Rand. So, and fortunately, as Dan mentioned, we have a breakfast place coming in. Where do you eat breakfast around here? Get a pancake and a whatever. You ever go out and have a pancake?
I don't eat breakfast.
All right, there.
Wrong guy.
He's coming down the wrong side of the table.
I'm a lunch guy.
Well, I am a breakfast guy. So I can tell you that you have to go to any city around us to have breakfast. We don't have, haven't had. We had that little place, the Prospect Heights Grill, but that left us real quick, about a year or so. So we don't have a place to eat breakfast. And I've been, looking all over, and below that came out from underneath the rug. Somebody brought in a breakfast place, in the shopping center. So now we're gonna have a breakfast place. I'm really proud of that. And other things that are happening. So it's a congested area with the cars and everything else, but we're gonna work it out. And you should take a look at it. You should go into the shopping center and look around and have any suggestions. We'll listen.
Sir, there was a question, and I'll explain this. The Bread and Butter Cafe, which is got a site in Palatine on Northwest Highway, just north of Colfax, over by the hair salon, by Arby's over there.
Yeah.
I went in there, great place, nice family that owns it, and food was really good. They're looking to expand in the second place. The owner, Mr. Finney, had driven by, saw the place packed. Went in, talked to him, found out. I went there first on a Saturday and couldn't find a place to park. So I went back there on a Tuesday and had breakfast. And so they'll be locating where Lola's Pizza is. So basically that vacant spot will be vacant for, it's not even technically going to be vacant because it's got a tenant now. They're at least just ended the new one starts. So we have a no net loss in that mall.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, since you guys don't know this, go to Experience, which is a breakfast place in the shopping center. They go to Granny's at Dundee at 83, or they go to Granny's down at Oakton in 83. Why? Because there's nothing here. So it's an important thing to have facilities like that. So. we can move on. What else? Anything quick, because we want to get to Norm's.
Norm's is on the agenda.
Okay, let's go with Norm. Explain where you're at, what you would like to see done, and we'll have our people from construction say a few things that they look at your area that could happen.
Well, I cannot do much with my property, even though half of it is in Prospect Heights, the other half building. The big one is a total of about 7-8 acres. The sad part of my tenants have minimum 5 years lease. So any project we plan, we have to do it 5 years apart in advance. And whoever wants to invest money in that kind of project, I don't know. When I was planning to do a 2-story, 3-story building at Prospect Heights, they said you cannot do it because airport is in here. The airport does not allow you to do it. And then cables came in 90 feet up in the air, and but by then it was too late. I have already my construction in process.
So you got 2 halves to your shopping center.
Yeah.
Wolf, along the railroad track, along by the train station. Okay, so you got 2 halves. You got a nicely done, Carnitas is one of the most famous places, and others. And then you go to half, the back half doesn't have much development. Seems mostly vacant. Am I right about that? Where your office starts and you go.
Well, it's 2 buildings, the Ascot Shopping Center, total 27,000 square feet of rentable space. 90% is rented already. Again, that's 5 years lease minimum. So we're talking about 5 years advance. When I was trying to build, they said, no, you cannot.
Well, you're in a different.
The airport is there.
You're in a different world.
But no,
The planes don't land on top of your building.
not only that, I was told, and I correct me if I'm wrong, that the railroad is going to expand another 15 feet. They told me move all the trees 10, 15 feet inward in your property because they are expanding the street, Wolf Road. And they never expanded the Wolf Road, but they made you move all the trees back.
Well, let's see what Michael has come back with. Do you have any drawings?
So could I just jump in real quick? So, Mayor, just so that I can maybe clarify for what we're talking about, I think Norm has different properties that are going on. We're talking about the property, so this is Camp McDonald, and this is Wolf Road coming through here. So it's the property that's on the south side of Camp McDonald, and then the west, the east side of, we'll do backwards, thank you. The east side of Wolf Road, and it also makes it the east side of the tracks over there. It's sort of a triangular shaped parcel. Right, so does that sort of bring everybody into where I think we're talking about? So then that parcel is really split up into, I think what Norm was talking about, two areas. There's a retail portion that's at the north end of that parcel, and then the south end is residential.
No.
The whole property is commercial at this point. There's no residential on the site right now. You have so therefore the current condition is what Mr. Norman said, that he has 2 buildings, that is reflected there. The front half is larger, a little more visible and modern. In fact, the southern half is not as visible, and the tenants aren't as visible. Correct, Norman? At your shopping center at Ascot?
Again, the shop, I have minimum 5 years lease.
Understood.
So there's nothing to be done between 5 years.
All the way down here.
Yeah.
But this is vacant. You don't have tenants in this space down here or down at the south end?
It's all rented. Space, no,
Okay.
it is already in use.
I thought you said it was mostly
7,
vacant.
8 tenants right in that area. Used to be train station for about 5 years. Thank you very much. And we paid $1 per month for the rental space, but now it's rented.
Okay, it's now leased, that
About
space.
7 tenants,
When I went by it, I thought
400 square
it was
feet
vacant.
is one tenant.
A lot of the tenants over there are word of mouth, mail order, phone call. They're not so much driven by destination traffic.
It's not a retail
It's
space.
not, it's used, there's a couple display showrooms, I believe you have a currency exchange, a tattoo parlor, or the use in there. There's some people, a dog grooming place in there that's a destination place on that half. But most of those, you drive by and there's no real visible office hours, there's no real visible signage, they're still leased.
That's what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
He's got leases on them.
Mhm.
So,
So what Kevin was meaning about the residential on the south end, he has a couple of sketches of proposed residentials that we could put in the south end and keep some of the commercials on the north end. So can you explain a proposed sketch?
sure, so the idea of, this is a concept plan that we put together, is to maintain the retail portion at the north end, and then propose to have 8 buildings that would be residential units with the parking and then a turnaround at the south end. The turnaround at the south end lines up with the train station. There's a walkway across to the train station, if you're familiar with that area. So from this area there, you can walk across to the platforms. So the idea that of this development would provide what a lot of millennials look for, and that's a transit-oriented development. So somebody that could live here and commute by train to their job and back to here at night, obviously. And so that would provide a product, a rental product that would be available for the type of users that are looking for that type of property in Prospect Heights.
Can you pass that around?
Absolutely. This is actually a slightly different version. I'll pass it the other way. You'll note that's concept 5. This is concept 4. We just worked different ways of laying out the buildings within the property, trying to look at different versions of the concept. So really, this was intended at this point as just a first sort of pass at how this is going to look and what the ideas that are out there, how we would make this development work. I was asked by Mr. Ponarelli and Mayor to sort of lay this out and then provide a sketch of what this is. So this is hot off the presses. This layout, as you'll see, Mayor and Michael, Matt, it's in line with what we talked about last night, creating those 8-unit buildings. So I believe you wanted to discuss the benefits, the pros and cons of this sort of development, or as I see it, mostly the pros.
My ability, but my impression was that the front building, there are 2 separate buildings. Okay, the front building is fairly well occupied and has some popular places and some unpopular places too, now that I think about it. But I thought the back half of the strip center, the back half is basically vacant.
Right, so this is, I would think of it as in sort of terms of 3. There's the north end retail that's in place, and we would propose to keep in place. The southern section of that building is actually a separate construction, but it's attached, and then there's a third building at the south end. I think that's the third building to the south end that's probably less occupied or less used. I'm not saying it's not leased, but there's less activity going on in that space is what.
All right, let's pass that over to Mike. Yeah, there's your 2 buildings, 3 buildings. And the back half, I think is very important.
The asphalt shopping center is ideal for construction, but the sad part of it, it's 5 years leases.
Yes,
Because next train station, people live there, first floor, second floor, third floor, take the train, travel wherever they want to, O'Hare and down downtown Chicago.
Absolutely.
Norm, Ascot is across the street.
I'm sorry?
Ascot is, it's across the street. Ascot is on the north side of Camp McDonald. And 7-Eleven at Ascot.
Yes,
It's
7-Eleven, I cannot talk for them.
No, but you know, that's your property, so I'm saying that this has nothing to do with Ascot Beach.
No, ideally, Ascot ideally is good for the train station because people will just, the properties behind Ascot, west of Ascot, east of Ascot, they were about 30,000 worth before construction. Now they're over 70,000 because people want to live next to the train station so they take the train, go to work. But ideally, but again, in my case, I have to just vacate all my tenants.
What tenants are you talking about? There are no tenants in the back.
I'm sorry?
There are no tenants in the back. You said it's mostly.
No, there are
mostly
tenants,
vacant.
no, there are tenants everywhere. All of, including my office, and there are tenants. There's only one space, which is my workshop, but the rest of the state, all including the old train station, is rented already.
Mayor, just for clarification, because I looked at the business licenses and we've been out there for some inspections. The southern building where Norman's office is, there's a
Right, where Norman's office starts.
Yeah. From there back, there's only, I think, 2 units that aren't, or no, the gentleman at the end who took the train station, he's moving into the other one, correct? The gentleman that's selling the lines, the home decorator. You know where the train station used to be?
Google says it's Body Life or 5-Star Grooming, doctor. Those are the ones at the south end.
Right.
Correct.
And
There's been a number, probably 4 businesses that have moved in there in the last year. Maybe, because you've got a new tenant in the back. Who-
Yeah, well, the total there is 27,000 square feet, as much shopping center. Again, there's only one space which I use as my sports storage, for workshop storage, everything else is rented. All the way through. There's nothing available right now for rent. Again, I don't give any tenant more than 5 years lease for the same reason, in case we have to tear it down. But at least 5 years notice to move out or whatever.
And I think what is a little bit of confusion here is a number of those tenants are very non-public. They don't have storefronts. They're don't have signage per se. You drive by and it doesn't necessarily look like there's anybody there. But a couple of those businesses are more mail order.
Electronic marketing,
based.
sure.
So that's why I think where some of the confusion may be in here is, yes, there are tenants in that back building. And we worked with them on, with some permits and some inspections, and we follow up with them. But you're not going to just do a Google search and find them there. So that, I think, to try and clarify the condition.
The first thing that hits me when I look at this site is like a gateway to the city. Everybody who's on that train, what they see there is what they think of Prospect Heights. And I think if you had a beautiful residential apartment development there, it would enhance the city's face to those people.
Yeah, 2 doors down, behind going east, starts Mount Prospect.
I didn't know that. That's where it starts.
I'd like to mention timing. No one's mentioned timing. We wouldn't be sitting here if it was 2007 or 2008.
Right.
About economic, we'd all be wondering, how do we get out of this big global economic mess? Now, we're in a perfect time to go and build developments anywhere in America now because the market is prosperous. And the banks, the rates are as low as ever, and the vaults are full at the banks. They want to get money out for everyone to develop anywhere they can. So there's an opportunity to do a beautiful development here at a train station. In Mount Prospect, we did the Shires at Mount Prospect, the Shires at Clock Tower Place, and put a beautiful glockenspiel, and the bird comes out every hour, and blah, blah, blah. And it was all because it was excellent timing to do those developments. And here, timing is so important. And if we have tenants, I mean, a buyout of a lease is always something that can be considered, to find them a better place somewhere else, and give them some money and pay them to move, and here's some extra money for the buyout, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, we've
and
done
we keep them
a lot
in
of
Prospect
times,
Heights.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, not everybody has a 5-year lease. Some have 4, some have 3, some have 2. You know, the tenancy is the tenancy. We could work with that.
Right, and you've got a window and timing where a project could be done and be profitable for the owner. You wait 3 or 4 or 5 years, you might have to wait another 10 years to get another window to do the types of projects. We don't know what's going to happen in 4, 5, 6 years, but we know in a year or 2, I would bet we've got a good market, and whatever product we put on it, it's successful.
Well, I invite you to drag through what we're talking about. It's very close, about 4 or 5 minutes from here, and see what Norm's got there. The other corners, one is the Ascot Shopping Center, but it's across the street. It is not part of this drawing. This is simply starts with Carnitas and runs back Norm's office, and then whatever tenancy is in the back of that. That's all it contemplates. So take a look at it and see what you think, and make some comments now. Mr. Maloof, what do you think?
Just as I'm looking at the proposals, there's, you know, my background in development and building houses, so I'm just thinking of the potential resident concerns and, you know, volume of people. You know, I'm sure the high school is going to look for some money from that project. So there's going to be impact fees and those types of things, I'm sure. But I mean, you know, there's a residential component that I know has been talked about in Prospect Heights forever. And I think it'll be very important, the quality of the development, the finishes, the interior finishes, you know, trying to understand what the rental rates will be. Because if it doesn't come in, or if it doesn't look like a downtown municipal, one of the downtown markets like you see in Arlington, Mount Prospect, Palatine, the residents here are going to blow a gasket if it looks less than what they see everywhere else. Because no one wants Section 8 rental apartments. And there's not a fine line between the two. There's this enormous perspective between the two. So I think that'll be important if you're going to do, I don't think multifamily is a bad idea. It's got to be done right, that's all I would say. And those are the things I think about, is how do you make it, if we're going to be the diamond in the rough, the little sneaky little community that nobody knows about, which is what Prospect Heights has been for a long time, then we got to do it right. That's all I would say. It's got to be done at a good high level. So, and I think the rents would probably work. I mean, you'll get people to pay the rents if you do a nice job.
Yeah.
Has there been any talk, Mayor, about, I know the concept of the rentals within the proximity of the
train station is very desirable. But what those people also like is have a place to walk to get their hair cut and their nails done, things of that nature. And
All you need is Starbucks.
and a Starbucks, and I think, you know, in the whole scheme of that project, something like that should be considered.
Well, our traffic is limited, their train station traffic. They don't give us service on Saturdays and Sundays, number one. What's interesting is we see these ads where these radio commercials, take your kids down to see Santa Claus on Saturday or Sunday. We don't have service. No one up that line has service on Saturdays and Sundays. We park, what was the say that? How many cars do we park? 180 maybe?
We're running right a little over 200 a day.
So I don't think I'm referring to the people that
But then we
live
spend
there.
Fine,
The millennials not only like the convenience of the train station, they like to be able to walk out of their unit and walk to the Starbucks and walk to get their nails done, and walk to get their hair cut.
Well, this is not going to be one of those locations, but we do have 7-Eleven across the street, and we do have the Ascot Meats there. On the Wheeling side, what are they doing, that pizza place? Marcos. Yeah, that's in Wheeling, so, but it's right on the corners, you know. There's only so much you can do, or attract, like the attraction.
I'm just throwing out
No, I
thought,
appreciate it.
just the idea that that's something that's very desirable to those millennials.
Were you thinking something like first floor retail, second floor, third floor living space above?
If you can't utilize the north building to try and get some of those tenants in there, then yes, your first floor is retail and your second, third, and fourth. And are we so, how high can we go in that proximity to the airport?
Certainly two stories is easy.
3 stories is
Three stories might be okay.
4 would be almost unheard of.
And,
And possibly not the entire first floor. We've seen developments that have multiple uses on the first floor. But I just think that has to be something that you consider, because if you're catering to the so-called millennials, that's a big thing for them. I mean, we're years away, well, you don't want to be years away from this project, I understand. But I mean, it's still, we're in the forming stages, and I think.
We did talk a lot about the millennials, but they are not the only target audience for this project.
Yeah.
You know, you've got your seniors, you've got your executive types that, you know.
Divorcees,
Right. And the corporate business structure is in flux. People are transferred all the time, so like my son-in-law, they live in Florida, they have an apartment in New York, his office is in New York. When he goes somewhere else, he gets an apartment, you know, wherever he's at. So there are other people besides the millennials that this would be marketed to.
Well, I don't know if there's enough, density there for first floor retail.
If you don't mind, I just wanted to walk through the plan real quick so you understand
Yeah.
the building type. So these units are individual buildings. Each one of them is 6 units. So you walk in between them, between the 2 units, there's a stairway, and you go up to the upper floor. This is a couple older concepts. This is a similar concept, but kind of older elevations. This building, this is a group of 2 of them. The idea is you walk in the entrance, you've got 2 ground floor units, and then you've got 2 pairs or 4 units up above. So these are grouped in units of 6. So they're smaller buildings, so there's an appeal that way, but also a third of your units are ground floor, you walk right in, which is appealing to older people. So it's a nice, kind of an exclusive development, in my opinion. Plus the other thing is, if we go up to 4 stories, that means that we're going to be doing an elevator. These are going to be probably wood frame construction, try to keep the costs down, keep the rents affordable, and so forth. It's a very easy building to construct, and it should be rented quickly, I would think.
It's a little bit nicer than going to a 15-unit apartment building, it's just smaller building, a little bit different feel.
It's a different feel. Each unit would have like 3 elevations, a front wall, a back wall, and a side wall. So you have cross ventilation, windows in every room, basically, window over the kitchen sink. A much nicer unit than when you're in a double loaded corridor with a unit on one side, a unit on the other side, and all you have is a patio door and a bedroom window that like the whole apartment. These are very different than what we're proposing over here for the 100-unit on managed sites.
Well, normally if you have a train station, your rents are higher, right? I don't think that's gonna happen here. I think we're gonna have to cater to rents lower than that. I'll give you an example. Lennar, just last year finished building at, behind LA Fitness and Mariano's Tango at 294. They built 300 units. Their average size was 800 square feet. And they sold out within 9 months. The rent, however, starts at 1,800 for 800 square feet. I got some amenities, but it's amazing.
Is 800 square feet a 2-bedroom?
You need a little bit more, but not much more for a 2-bedroom, maybe 850 or something like that. But they're typically 1-bedrooms, but there are 2-bedrooms. $1,800 for the bare minimum unit, and it goes up from there. The bedrooms are 2,200, and who's there? All people, millennials that work downtown. That's all they care about. They don't want to own anything. You know, this is now, I sold $600 million worth of condos, and a couple of the guys were with me on some of them. The phrase was, why are you throwing your rent in the toilet? You could own an apartment, a condo. Now it's exactly the opposite. Condos are a drug on the market, and rentals are all over the place. And I'm in banking, and we don't make condo loans. We make rental construction loans because it's the product out there that's in demand. So, but I don't think you could, you know, with LA Fitness next door, or Mariana's next door, I don't think you can carry this kind of site. So it's got to be a reduced rental, and maybe, you know, down to $1,100 for a 1-bedroom. And then we heard of new construction. The size does not have to be 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and all the other stuff that goes in. Like with, all we did was convert 6,000 units, and they were apartments. And so we're and some were smaller, but they all sold because people didn't want to throw their money in the toilet. So now it's the opposite.
You're right. I mean, the average rent in Prospect Heights is $1,422 for what is for rent right now. It goes from $1,000 to $2,100 a month.
You're talking about developments, the units in Prospect here, the units here, we have rentals, but they're condominiums.
Right.
They're not rentals, truly rentals. There's some nice stuff on the east side. West side is all half-acre lots, and well, we have septic, well, not septic, but we have sewers. Where on the east side, it's a full load. You get the water, and you get the rest of the stuff.
Excuse me, I interrupted you.
What else?
Just one more point about the plan. There are 8 buildings, 6 units each. They're not attached because we go to the assessor, and if you have 7 or more units, you're assessed at 33% of the market value is your assessed valuation, and your tax bill is evaluated accordingly. If you have 6 or fewer units, you're assessed at 16% of the market value. So the real estate taxes could be a half or 40% less if the buildings aren't attached to more than 6 units. And this helps everyone's rent. The rent can be lower because your expenses are lower, but now you can charge less for the rent.
I'm looking at the traffic patterns getting in and out. I know this corner, and you have 48 families that you're looking at here. Let's just say 96 cars if everybody's working. You got 80-some parking places, and I've been there at rush hour in the morning and in the evening, and it's tough at that area right there.
Kevin, why don't you address that? You've been over at that site.
Yeah, I've looked at it too. I agree it's not an ideal intersection at all. I mean, part of it is there are 3 points of access to the site. There's the directly onto Camp McDonald Road, straight off the north side, and then there's 2 entrances. They're restricted in a way. The south entrance, you can't make a left turn because of the railroad crossing, so you have to you turn left out of this. And then the south entrance, you turn right as the way to get into the left turn lane if you wanted to head out of that way. Ultimately, this is going to, the development, should the concept be approved, we're going to have to look at a traffic study to figure out if there are any improvements that can be made to that intersection. So I don't propose before anybody here that we've got all those answers figured out yet. I think part of it is we agree with you. We recognize that it's a challenge. It's one of the challenge points, but there's not much else that can be done. I mean, part of this is that I think the reason we're here is we don't want this to become a blighted site in any way. We want to look at what's the highest and best use for the property, what's appropriate there, what can be most beneficial to the owner, and then what's best for the community. This is the idea of a building site like this. I guess if you agree, then we can proceed with coming up with some of these, answering some of these questions.
For what it's worth, judging by a couple nieces I have, were married, live in Palatine by the train, and they use that to maintain only one vehicle in the family. And again, I don't know how common that is. It's a small sample. I understand, but
it's very common. That's the whole point of the transit-oriented developments. I mean, that's why they're popping up. In Palatine, Wheeling has the new town center that's going in there for the same concept. And what we're generally finding is that there's the decrease in the use of personally owned vehicles. I mean, if you're familiar with downtown Chicago, zip cars, you rent a car. I think that's what the trend is going towards. I count myself in sort of the old school where we all want to have our own car and we drive around in our own vehicle, but that's just not the way it is, right, as you've indicated. So these types of developments, the mayor made a comment about, or somebody did, I apologize, about what Wheeling train station, what the station, what this rail metro station actually provides for service. If they'll change their service if the demand is there, if that can come around. I'm not saying that's an instant change, it would take time, but those are things that can happen. But the train tracks aren't going away, and rail service is going to continue. I mean, that's some of the things that we can be sure about, at least in the next generation of time.
is anybody aware, is anybody else along that line, like Wheeling, put in a development like that?
Yes. Yeah.
Something relatively new that might have caused Metro to take a look at this one?
Yes. I mean, we haven't looked at what Metro would be willing to do, but there are developments like this going in Mundelein. Yep. So
it increases the opportunity.
Right. If their ridership goes up and if there's a demand for people to hop on there, yes, I know there's no weekend service, there's no late night service now. I mean, I'm aware of that, but that can change.
Yeah.
So I think we need to look at what's the right use for the property. It's obviously an odd-shaped piece. It's it's a sharp-pointed triangle. There's limited access to the site. What's best for the property? So, and Mayor, I think we've talked around, Mr. Pronarelli and I. how do we lay the site out to come up with something that would work? What's the best thing to do there? We're welcoming input, but I think this is probably what's best based upon the data that we have.
Well, Norm's the kingpin here, you know, he's the boss. Do you like what you see? I mean, you were the one that came to me and said,
Well, let me ask you one question, Mr. Mayor. Once upon a time, as I told you, they asked me to move the trees 10 feet away from the highway because we're going to expand the Wolf Road by about 10, 15 feet. Is that project dead or still alive?
I've been here for a very long
You
time.
never heard about it?
I don't, you know, they had bigger things to do in life, I think.
And that's what I was told.
Look at Palatine Road, they paved it. They had a 10-year plan to have different exits on Palatine Road. And they did build a couple new bridges, and that was the end of it. So at least they paved it now, but it's the same road that it always was.
Dan, I'm not aware of there being any roadway changes to that intersection. Are you?
A little bit that we've had some discussion with Pace looking at the bus terminal in Wheeling, that there is no call to this point that I've heard of about Cook County making any improvements at the camp and Wolf Road intersection there.
Are they both the Cook County Highway Department roads?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's what I think so too.
Wolf Estate.
Oh, Wolf Estate, that's right.
And then Cam McDonald is Cook County?
Yes.
So, you know, and we had some discussions early on with, you know, Pace looking at the bus terminal down in Wheeling and, you know, looking at possible bus traffic coming in from Pace. And at that time, they said that there may be some in the future, but nothing hard, nothing firm, nothing that was published or public.
Okay.
Well, if they do come along and move trees, they'll have housing in front of them. So
I'm sorry?
if they actually do something, if we can get something done before them, they're gonna have to rethink their process. I don't know where those trees are that you're talking about. You could get a house right behind you. My Prospect starts right there.
I'm ready to do anything and everything, really. It's just buy the tenants out or cancel the lease, but the business is bad, they're willing to close the lease. My question is, the street on Wolf Road, is gonna be amplified to 10, 15 feet on the west side? Because that will change a lot of things down there. If Wolf Road is gonna be another 10 feet westward, is gonna take place from Wolf Point Shopping Center, and
Yeah.
it makes it easy for traffic, but the space we have. I'm ready to tear down the whole building and stuff over there, or build stilts and build the second floor with the stilts and everything else, everything.
We're ready to start too.
I'm sorry?
We're ready to start building too.
I'm ready.
It's all about timing.
Well, you know,
You're a home builder, right?
This is
It's all about timing. In a good market, you can
There's a
sell
railroad crossing
anything
here.
anywhere. In a bad market, you can't sell the best product at the lowest. It's all about timing.
I remember, the parking lot for the train station is owned by ComEd. We lease it from them. So they're gonna cut their own parking lot.
But that's Commonwealth Edison,
Yeah,
the train station,
yeah.
the property.
Yeah, they have infrastructure. The land is worthless to anybody else. They have infrastructure all over the bottom of the parking lot. You can't sell it because they have to be, what are they gonna do? Put the wire up here or go there? They can't do any of that. They're stuck too. And that's why they have discussion with them about, they asked me, well, what do you think the land's worth? I said, $1. Like you with the train station, you accepted it, but they thought I was crazy. I said, what do you do with that parking lot? Can't do anything except pave it, repave it, whatever, except as a parking lot. And there's nobody else around there except us. Train station needs parking. All right, anything else we want to contribute to this? Norm says they'll do anything. That's what we heard of.
I'd like to contribute some evidence I found in the National Association of Home Builders about the amount of jobs created and income produced locally by new residents and by the construction of the building, and how the trickle-down affects the city's economy. And if you look at some of this data that the National Association of Home Builders put out, 100 units where Manny is might produce $1 million of actual income to the city over 10 years. And 50 units might produce half of that over 10 years. So there's an incredible amount of revenue that can come in to the city coffers by having additional multifamily in the town. That's my last statement.
All right, let's go around the table. Chuck, anything else you want to add?
I just think the whole idea of multifamily to me makes sense in this town. And the key is, how do we maximize the income to the city by doing so? You know, and then I think about Norman's property and Wheeling Kitty Corner over there. So what else can we do to keep that revenue within Prospect Heights relative to the north end of his building, or where Matt is over with Ascot, and those kind of things are the things that could be done there. To Jerry's point, that can keep those folks in town.
Mm-hmm. Good, Jerry?
I have nothing to add. I agree with the whole concept of what we've talked about here today. I think it's a matter of getting the snowball made and pushing it down the hill.
Yeah.
That's out of my hands, but it looks like we've got some capable people that are working very diligently. So I think it looks exciting.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of looking under every rock to see where we could find a nickel. I've done that for 9 years.
That's the word on the street.
The challenge I took on, I think it's been very successful. Good, anything else? I'll do anything you want.
Well, I think we should have next meeting in my property, especially them.
You're right. You're right.
Better view.
Yeah.
Maybe construction people can build a second floor, third floor, fourth floor
Yeah.
on stilts. I get the shopping center as is.
And it's lovely.
Good luck.
And eventually get rid of the shopping center blow for possible.
Yeah.
But with second floor, third floor, and fourth floor, by the train
I
station,
think it's from Slavia.
one on top of the shopping.
When would you like to meet over there?
I'm sorry?
What day are you available? What day is good to meet at your,
How big of a
what day is good for you? A Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
I meet every day. For me, we're talking.
He's there every
24
day.
hours a day, I'm
He
available.
leaves at 4 o'clock. So,
Yeah, any day. We can meet in that area, and again, it's good to have a visual idea of what you're talking about. But the expensive idea is build stilts and put the second floor and third floor and fourth floor on top of shopping center, and gradually demolish the shopping center and make a parking lot for the things that live up there.
I think Norm was talking about 4+1s, and we have a lot of history with 4+1s in Chicago. But,
That's
okay.
easier than anything else. Really.
All right.
Just for my own information, Mayor, when you're talking about 2, 3, 4 stories, who and when makes that determination of how high you can be in that particular location?
Well, I don't think the airport has any concerns.
Oh, okay.
We're very close to that site with an 86-foot height, 83. eight different town there. So,
Okay.
you know, can you pile them in? Well, you got parking problems, you do that.
So it was more an excuse back then, as far as the airport and the
I
height?
don't know, I mean, we had a lady here as mayor, and she wasn't tuned into much of what we're talking about here today.
So it's really gonna be up to density versus the airport?
Chuck, just to let you know, there is a height limitation in the airport zone. We would have to take a look at the map. I do not believe that Norman's property is in that zone area, but that's something that will be checked as part of the review when more solidified plans come. But the product that was shown by Mark, we're talking, what, 35 feet? Right. Okay. The last, when we did the most recent Shane construction, their roof height is 42 feet.
Right.
Okay, and that cleared airport. We got FAA sign off.
Yeah, the comment towers are how tall? And they're right there.
Yeah.
I don't think that the airport's
No,
going to dictate this at all.
No.
What's the current zoning of the property is a relevant thing to discuss.
Right.
Because whether we could comply with the building height within the current zoning, or if we would be looking for any sort of relief of that, but
And this project will need zoning relief, because we're talking about some rezoning from B1 to mixed use B1R. Okay, so I'm looking, and there's gonna be some potential parking relief. And I'm just talking off my head, gentlemen. We'd probably be looking at a PUD type of arrangement, because we're gonna be talking about parking relief. We're gonna be talking about access. And I think what we'll end up doing is it'll give us an opportunity then to talk about the aesthetics, landscaping, the types of materials along those lines. But there will be some zoning changes that are required with this, just because the baseline zoning is a B district. But it's all,
I like it.
our processes are in place, and we handle those very quickly.
That would be the only variation we might request, is the parking relief. I don't think we'll be requesting any other variations. I don't think so.
What we would need to do is look at possibly density issues because of this, going to an R2. But again, those are all things, if this concept moves forward, we can sit down and take a look at what each and every item is along that list. But, our R2 density ratios, we'd have to look at how many units per acre, those things, which we've done, the townhomes at Rob Roy were an R1 PUD, okay, because of the density. So there's quality products in projects that have been done historically. We just have to follow our process, and we can do that quickly.
All right. Matt, anything you want to add?
No, I think it's all been said.
All right. Karen, what would you like to say?
Just can we approve the minutes before? The minutes, yes.
I think
That wasn't
the
me.
paper would be shriveled by now. All right, we'll do that. Mr. Peter?
I'm done.
Okay.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Rodney, you've been pretty silent for that.
I've been listening. I'm behind Jerry, I'm behind the crew. It makes sense.
All right. Joe Wade?
Mayor, just respond to a couple points made about trying to facilitate walking in the area. The city has 3 grants pending for sidewalk assistance for Wolf Road. We were thinking the way we could link Quincy Park, some of the other housing developments. What's the one with Willow and Wolf? We're the first train stop from O'Hare. And that's a big employment center, Rosemont and O'Hare. It's a very quick train ride, as well as getting into the loop. So even without extended service, we think that if we could make that last mile easier for people living in the neighborhood, they might be more apt to use the train. So
Yeah, Briarwood there.
yeah, but it works the other way too. If this development comes through, people living here, now they could walk to Union Ale House or other places too. So.
Good point.
Good point.
All right, I think we've done it. Really started.
Just on the multifamily thing, strategic location is, to me, paramount. At each location where you look at this kind of opportunity, it's got to be perfect. And then the quality of the product, interior and exterior elevations, design features, that's going to be pretty important. Because the people in this community want to be as competitive or better than Arlington, Mount Prospect, Palatine. They want to be either as good or better. When you hear people in the community speak, you know that better than I do, Mayor. So,
It's interesting to me is that when I first started in 1969, building and converting with the company, and I'm still with it, people said, don't buy any land next to a train station, go on a railroad track. Don't ever buy anything across the street from the cemetery. Well, all that land pricing doubled real quick, didn't take long. So it's what you make of it,
they told me not to build 300 houses a half a mile from Stateville.
Right, same kind of, same kind of.
And they all sold pretty fast.
All right, thank you for coming. We'll distribute some notes. I'll sign the name. What else do we need?
Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
Okay, we need a motion to
So
approve
moved.
the main minutes.
Second.
And that's a voice vote, all in favor?
All right.
Thank you.
Aye.
So we got that done, and I'll send a copy of those minutes. They're pretty old now, but that's okay. And then we need a motion to adjourn. All right.
Second.